Shalom. Ko Holo Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai Bahashem Raha HaKadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect scattered throughout the four corners of the globe. My name is Barad Debal, coming to you from the GMS campus, Indianapolis. And to all those listening and learning, to you I say Shalom. Especially to you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians that make up the 12 tribes of Israel. Today is just another example of many that has been shown as to why we say in the scriptures, starting with the men of GMS, the head apostles and elders and bishops of GMS, and those that teach the likewise doctrine, to never trust thine enemy. And so just got a few points to make. Maybe a few. This starting with the first scripture, Sirach chapter 12 verse 10, and we'll read down some. Then hopefully it's edifying to the like body of true believers. What actually brought me to this is that about a day ago, and we've spoken on this on several occasions, and we used to say, there have been many times where we said the U.S. Had signed or broken 200 plus treaties. But now, as Daniel had mentioned, knowledge shall increase. As knowledge is increasing, we're finding out more and more information and getting more and more accurate in the information in which we are telling. So 200 plus treaties was not an omission or a lie of some sort. We knew that it was we knew at the time 200 or so, but now it's coming out. I mean, not only is it 200 plus, but we can now say 300 plus treaties. As you can see, U.S. signed 370 plus treaties with indigenous nations. They broke every single one. And so it just goes to why we say never trust thy enemy. Okay. And if you have been living under a rock, or you just now are coming across this information as far as, you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, and those that look like the other nations, but in spirit, you go back to the sons of Jacob, because again, our people have been scattered. So you may look like a so-called white man, may look like a Chinese, may look like a Japanese, East Indian man or woman, but many of our people that have been scattered, seed line goes back to an Israelite. So again, if you're coming into this and you're coming with the true heart of understanding, then of course this will be some information. But again, as we can see, the natives, this is also just proof. Deuteronomy 28, we've brought out many scriptures of how, those scriptures apply, to the natives as well. So it's not just an all black thing. But as we read, this is getting right into it. It says, never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. So like iron, if you ever had an iron piece and a metal piece of iron, a piece of iron, and you had it outside, brand new, shining, over time with the oxygen and the water, the different elements that are in the air, eventually that rust will show. Okay, and this is likened unto Esau Edom, the so-called white man. Though he may seem to have good intentions, and as we're going to read further, you may many of our people who have seen them, and like Elder Malcolm would say, you can't trust a bald face in a tie, right? And they may come with that bald face with the tie, salesman, and in any case, they have untrue, for the lack of terms, intentions. So it's first and foremost, you must understand who your enemy is. Okay. they have a perpetual hatred for the children of Israel. All right. And when you look at the history of the so-called whites people, you'll notice that they, through the history, even starting just with the Americas, but it even goes back just a little bit further, much further than that. But in the history of the Americas, you can see that it's been nothing but hell placed upon the Israelites. All right. And the Lord said that these things would happen. So when you come into this knowledge, this understanding, first thing we should one of the things you should know as an Israelite, it's like, who is the enemy? Who hates you? So all the nations have an hatred for Israel, because as long as we're in this bottom position, having no say in this life and in government, they are on top. But when Yahweh Bashim Shai returns, he's going to change those things. Israelites are going to be the ruling kingdom forever to come, and the other nations will be at the bottom. Esau Edom, who's at the top, the very top now, he's going to be at the very, very bottom, all right? And then eventually eradicated, thus saith the Lord. But it says here, it says, though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and be aware of him, and thou should be unto him as if thou hast wiped the looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust hath not been altogether wiped away. So it's like he did these things to the natives when he came over and how the land was taken. And then we were given information, I can say growing up about like Thanksgiving, for example. And it was all about Pocahontas, right? But then when you go into those histories, you see that there was nothing but bloodshed and atrocities that happened. Okay. And they set treaties, right? And then many of these treaties that they set were to so that they could actually live in proximity of one another. Like, here's your land and here's our land. Well, in actuality, the natives had all the land, but Esau, of course, came right in. And, there are many things, land grabs. They seen there was oil, gold in places, and they just started to just settle. And when they would settle, of course, come in with diseases and also infighting or fighting of the natives, taking advantage of the women and children as the men had went off, or they would provide them with smallpox and fire water, weakening the men, and then taking over the women and children, and then eventually taking over the land. And this is what we see to this day. So the same people, and their children, their forefathers and their children's children, the same people who are running this world today were the same people back then, and they don't change, okay? And they won't change. Eventually, they're going to rear their ugly head again, even further upon our people. So I would say, in Jeremiah says, this is even the time of Jacob's trouble, right? But getting back to the point, it says, so he says, set him not by thee, lest when he have overthrown thee, he stand up in thy place. Neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat. And thou at the last remember my words and be pricked therewith. So as the natives have started setting these agreements with them, eventually we have what we have today. They were pushed into reservoirs, small little areas that were really, you could barely plant food, really rare, barely inhabitable places. The children were actually taken away and put in boarding schools and retaught, and many things that were happening unto them as well. And so 370 treaties. So what I did is I pulled up, and I have a couple, I think I have a few other scriptures, a couple of scriptures in mind, but let me do this. This is John chapter 10, verse 10. Yahweh Shai says, he says, the thief cometh not but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. So all the things in which we've mentioned, there was nothing nice that happened unto our people. It was stated that Columbus, when he came over to the Americas, sent back word and said, hey, with roughly about 400 or so men, excuse me if I'm a misquote, but with roughly a small number of men, he could take over this people here in the Americas, that they are a peaceable people. So they recognized that they were peaceable people. So the thief cometh not but to steal, kill, and destroy. But Yahweh Shai, he says, I am come that they may have life, they meaning the Israelites, and have it more abundantly, because he says, I come but for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. He's not come for all nations, but the Israelites and the ones that are scattered amongst the nations, as I mentioned before. All right. So let's get this in. Oh, and it did me wrong. Let's see. Let me pull up my question. Okay, so this was around the question I asked. So I said, give me 5 major treaties that the American government broke with the indigenous people and the death tolls. So it says, it is important to distinguish between the treaty violation and deaths. In most cases, there is no precise death toll because it was a lot. It was a lot more that can be attributed solely to the breaking of the treaty. Well, the point that I'm making in that, though, is that when the treaties were being broken, the natives, many of them would go to the actual courts of the government. Just kind of like what happened today when the people are unalived or have some form of injustice in the streets, we go directly to the very courts of the people who actually committed the atrocities. And so they do their own detective work, and then they come back with a verdict. And a lot of times, most often than not, the people come back to be innocent. And so there's a provoking of people, and there's a response, and then in that response, there's a fighting. And so, of course, they already were looking at our people as savages. You setting propaganda and wordplay on the people. But it says, because the consequence unfolded over years through forced removals, warfare, starvation, disease, and loss of land, historians generally estimate deaths associated with the events that follow through violations rather than the legal breach itself. So they're just saying that they violated, which is why it was broken, but in actuality, they were doing underhanded things, and that's just the way Esau is. Let's just get a few of these, and I don't want to lose it. It says the Treaty of Fort Laramie. Now, we just did a violence against our brother Jacob on this one, but these were some major ones that they gave me. And as you can see, I'm not going to read all in detail just for the sake of time, but just get into this death toll. It says ensuing, it says, look, from 1876 to 1877, 1 year killed roughly, or unalived roughly, murdered roughly 1,000 to 2,000 indigenous people. Hundreds of U.S. soldiers also died. So here's another one. This is the Treaty of Ekota, and forgive me my pronunciation, but it says signed by a small minority without authorization from most Cherokee leaders. So sometimes they would go behind the leader's back and have other people sign and say, "Hey, this was the agreement," which that's sowing discord amongst brethren, causing disorder amongst the tribes. It says, and resulting trail of tears, causing about 4,000 Cherokee deaths from disease, starvation, and exposure. You had the Treaty of Dancing Rabbit Creek. It says promised protection and voluntary removal, but implementation involved coercion, fraud, and failure to uphold protections for those remaining. This is an estimated 2,500 to 6,000 Choctaw died during the shortly after removal, according to historical estimates. All right, so last two treaty. Well, this is the Treaty of Medicine Lodge. Okay, this is promised reservation boundary. Right, and it says, as you can see, the death toll like 300 to 700 people. So before they came over into the Americas, the people were, they were into idolatry and different things. Just one example is Apocalypto. They were all into the midst of different things. However, as we could see that in the process of things, that right here it says many indigenous deaths from treaty violations came through forced displacement, famine, disease, and exposure, making exact numbers impossible to determine. So they were a lot higher. And it says across the 18th and 19th century, the U.S. entered into more than 370 treaties with indigenous nations, and historians widely agree that many were violated, ignored, and later nullified by federal actions. Because there were certain situations that they would set these treaties so that the armies could actually get into the areas, so it would be peace, and the armies or different occupants would go in and they would safely set their stations. And then right when they were set and ready and they had all their they were able to fortify the area, then they would break the treaties, and then so they would be able to really fight. And so it's kind of like letting the natives letting their guard down and trusting the enemy. So let's get back to this real quick. We'll go. It says I want to jump to verse 14. Verse 16. It says, "An enemy speaketh sweetly with his lips, and in his heart he imagined how to throw thee into a pit." Okay. "He will weep with his eyes, but if he find opportunity, he will not be satisfied with blood." All right. So you can see that this is the sentiment. They come peaceable. They speak peaceable words, but war was in their heart. All right. Just to give another example, since I mentioned that. This is the book of Psalms 55, verse 21. It says, "The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart." So, they create these, and even now times, these unrighteous decrees. You hear the brothers bring that out all the time. And they set these treaties and these different laws and things like that. Now that they got control, but in the back of their mind, they're trying to figure out how to, like you said, throw thee in the pit or overthrow thee. But war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. So he eventually draw the sword when he, especially when he knows he has the chance to overpower thee and take things over. And today, is when you look all over America and all over the world, as the earth has been given into the hand of the wicked, you see what he's continued to do while he's in his power. So I hope that this lesson was edifying, uplifting, exhorting to the elect body of true believers. Before I end, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Raha HaKadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect scattered throughout the four corners of the globe. Until next time, all those listening and learning to you, I say, Shalom.